October 17, 2023. This is the S&P 500 E-futures mini on the 2000 tick chart using the NinjaTrader 8 platform. This is how I saw the charts today. You can go down to the descriptions. You can see where I actually timestamped where I thought I saw setups. I didn't take any trades today. It just didn't feel quite in tune. And as the day went on, I don't know, I was kind of in a mental funk. So I didn't take any trades today. There's only one piece of economic data that came out, which was at 5:30 Pacific Standard, which is about right here. But as you can see, the market in the pre-market was already selling off. So right around here, when the core retail sales came out, it continued just selling off. So it didn't really seem like it had an effect on the market so much as the market just kept doing what it was doing. I didn't find too many setups today, and even then, of the setups I found, I didn't find that many that I thought were high probability. It's similar to yesterday where I had some difficulty finding some good setups, even though I was able to take, I think, 2 trades. But today, I noticed that on days like this where the market is clearly moving and it's clearly moving these big swings, when the candles are pretty congested. Now, what I mean is not that they're just moving side by side, but even on their way up, when they're congested, or they're just creating small little 1 to 2 tick extremes above or below the previous signal bar, it makes it a little bit harder to trade because you get like second entries that are very tight, which for me is hard to trust because when you're working with something that close in range, it's hard to know for sure if it's a clean second entry. Now, I suppose you could go to a different time frames and maybe it will clarify some of the price action, because if you went to a 10,000 tick chart or even a 4,000 tick chart instead of 2,000, then these candles would kind of smooth out a little bit more. But I still haven't done that yet. I do keep track of a 10,000 tick chart just to get an idea of what the overall market context is. But I still mainly trade the 2,000 tick. And as I said, days like this makes it difficult for me to find good setups and to trust any of the setups that I do see. So I'm going to go through the trades right now. This is the pre-market highs and the pre-market lows marked it here and here. Technically, the pre-market lows all the way down here, but it looked like this is a pretty consistent support here and resistance up here. As you can see, well, as you're going to see, the resistance doesn't really come into play all that much. So in the pre-market, it was already looking pretty choppy. I just drew this trend line, and I first thought, okay, when I first saw this, I wasn't really thinking trading range anymore because clearly there was no bounce off the pre-market lows anywhere to come all the way back to the top. And so I was already thinking it's probably going to start trending. It might be a sell-off day. And so when prices open, this is kind of the thing that I'm talking about. It creates these very small, so technically you have a new low here, first entry short, second entry short. Now, when you're doing counts on price action, you're looking for second entries, but this is just like even if you decide this is a good signal bar, when it's confirmed here, it only ticked 1 tick below. So if you're trusting you're going to go with the trend and you're going to sell, it just feels risky. But then it also feels risky to think that, okay, well, if you don't go short, then obviously, the trade is to go long. But even then, just look at the size of these candles. They're very tiny. So I saw a lot of this stuff all day today, where it's these second entries that are very tight and congested, even though it's trending in a direction. And I saw that yesterday. So that kind of made yesterday's trading a little, I wouldn't say like super tough, but it's just more like not tricky, but it just makes it so it's hard to trust these second entries. So I end up sitting on my hands a lot. So that's kind of what happened today. The prices continue moving, it kind of chops within this range. It breaks out of this yellow channel. This red one doesn't exist yet. It looks like it's just oscillating and chopping inside this blue trading range. And as I said, you find a bunch of second entries, longs and shorts, but it's just hard to trust because they're just so quick, or it's just like so shallow in terms of they only move 1 or 2 ticks above their signal bars. Prices then continue. I actually do see a setup here. It's like the second entry long. So it's like a new high here, first entry long, second entry long. Now this isn't a very good signal bar, and I did see a potential bounce off this bottom of this trading range. And if I wanted to take this, I think I'd have to put the entry after the close of the signal bars here, after the close of this trigger bar. So I'd wait for this to close, and I'd probably just put it 1 tick above here. It looks like it would have filled you and it would have went up, but here, right now, it's clearly selling off and then consolidating. And at the bottom of the trading range, I wasn't 100% sure. I wasn't even sure if this downtrend had played out. But as soon as it came up here, bounced and went back down, that's what I started looking for this red channel. At least I had a trend line here. And I wasn't really sure where the bottom was, so I actually placed it down here. So it became this red channel, 4 touches here and 2 touches down here. The price action is clearly just moving horizontal right now. We do have a new high, first entry long, second entry long, but these are just really hard to trust. Prices then continue. It looks like it falls into this yellow channel coming down. You do have a new low here, first entry short. Technically, you have a second entry short here and a failure, but as I said, it's just these side-by-side candles makes, for me, and my experience level, I need to see more days like this to get a better read and start looking at different, I think, time frames. A little bit, probably maybe a 4 or 5 or something higher tick chart for days like this. And then prices continue moving up. It looks like there's a spike in a channel. Flashes up. There's no second entry here that's clean, or at least even a second entry. Breaks out of this yellow channel. This purple channel doesn't exist yet, but I did have a trend line going up. I just wasn't 100% sure it was a channel yet, because if I put it up here, which is where I eventually did, it looks very large right now, so it doesn't really serve any good purpose. I did see a new high here. The first entry long, pull back. Technically, you have a second entry long here, and then you would say you could restart the count. And I also thought it was in a trading range. It broke out of this yellow channel going up. This is where the confusion is. This could be right here. So it's new high, first entry long, pullback, second entry long, count resets. This is technically the new high. First entry long, pullback, second entry long right here. Also coming out of a fail breakout. Now, I thought this might be a possible trade because the risk on this candle is only 1 point, so you only have 6 ticks of risk. And there's enough room to scalp out. The EMA is technically holding, and it's after the break of this yellow channel. I wasn't sure if this is already one push up, pull back, and a second push up, or if this is just one push up and this is the second attempt here. So it's a little confusing for me. This area also just feels a little congested, so I just wanted to just wait on it, and then it just clearly worked. If you went long, flashes up, and it confirms this purple line now, because I actually had a little bit tighter touching these two, but it touches this one pretty well. If you did have it slightly lower, I don't think it changes the price action too much, although you do have a small overshoot now. It kind of chops around, goes up, rallies up here, touches it another time, which is good. So I believe I'm in a purple channel going up now. Technically, you have a new high, first entry long, second entry long, then you have a third entry long, or you count this as one leg. So it's one leg down, first entry long, second leg down, second entry long, and then a failure. But I wasn't getting a good feel about where this price action was, because it's just kind of consolidating. It looks not very clean. These candles are very stemmy, and so I'm just waiting. It's really congested here. I see another setup here, and I think this is actually a potential trade because it's new high, first entry long, pullback, second entry long, and it was bouncing off this purple. So you have one key entry point here, bouncing off the purple ascending channel, and then you also have a potential support right here. So there's potentially a second key entry point. However, I wouldn't blame you if you actually drag this a little bit lower, if you're trying to think it's actually a lower, bigger range. And then the signal bar is okay. I mean, it's kind of closing up higher, closing a little more bullish, but it's a little more doji-ish. So it's a possible trade. And I thought if I were to take this trade, I would have put it right at the highs right here. So I'd have to have my order ready. I don't quite remember how this one formed. I don't know if I would have gotten picked up. And then for certain, I would have gotten my quick scalp. Prices then continue moving up. You do have a new high here, first entry long, second entry long, but the second entry long is far from the EMA. It's already pressing toward the highs, so I'm just not too keen on this kind of setup. Prices then continue chopping, keeps going up, falls into this green channel. It breaks through the pre-market high, which is here, this gray one here. I'm wondering if it's going to get pulled back in, but it doesn't. So right at this point, the price action looks like a V formation. It was a sell-off, consolidation, and then a strong rally. And even the rally was a little messy because there's some consolidation, some choppiness. It was just kind of a little bit noisy today. Prices then continue going up. So far, the EMA is holding. And this is probably the only good trade that I found out of the whole day, but I didn't take it. As a new high here, it's a first entry long, pulls back, it's about to create a second entry long. It also broke out of this green channel, and it broke out of the green channel. On top of that, it already tested and made a new low. It's on the EMA, so it has a lot of things going for it. If I took this trade, I would have put it one tick above this guy. I would have gotten filled and likely got my scalp. So this is actually a pretty decent setup in my opinion. Unfortunately, I didn't take it. Then prices continue moving. It falls into this channel, and then I do see a higher low. So it's actually a new high, first entry long, second entry long, or you could just see it as a higher low. It's confirming this yellow up channel, touching about 2 times, excuse me, a third time. So it's the first time it gets started, second, and as a third time. This higher low, I am unsure if it's a high probability trade. I mean, the EMA is holding, is bouncing off the bottom of this yellow up channel. And I just really wanted this signal bar not to be an inside bar, or at least if it closed really deliberately high, then I would have felt more comfortable. But it looked like it pulled back and then closed slightly a little bit lower. So that just gave me pause. Clearly, it would have worked for a scalp. And then things consolidate. This just gets very congested here. Continues moving up. There's a small break of this yellow up channel. It doesn't get to the other side, and now it breaks through. Not only that, prices are breaking through this purple channel that I thought all the price action was going to respect for a little bit longer. Comes down, I have one leg down, pull back, second leg down. Technically, I have a new high. You have first entry long. Technically, I have a second entry long right here. But if you look at the bigger picture, it looks like one leg down, first entry long, second leg down. You just don't worry about this small little break above. Second leg down, and the second entry long. But this is a terrible signal bar. That's unfortunate because it worked out pretty well. You do have a higher low here, but it's below the EMA, and I just wasn't too keen on it. Then prices then continue, breaks down. I do see a lower high here. I see a new high here, double top. First entry long, second entry long. Comes up, and it fails right here, but also creates a lower high right here. I wanted this candle to actually have come up, touch the EMA, and then come back down. But it didn't quite form that way. Maybe I'm asking too much of it, but there was enough room for a quick scalp, and it just didn't quite set up. Maybe I have too many check marks or check boxes for this to satisfy, but as I said, I wasn't quite feeling in tune originally in the market today. And as things were progressing, I just became more and more convinced that things weren't just things are probably a little more challenging. And prices continue moving, breaks, stays within this orange channel. This is very, very congested, very tiny candles, just kind of side by side. I don't really like anything that I see. I do see this consolidation area, and then it starts this kind of a shallow rally up with the EMA starting to slowly turn up. There's um, no real bounce point, except the only thing I could find is potentially this is the midline of the pre-market highs and the pre-market lows. But other than that, it didn't have any clean setups, in my opinion, to take a trade off of. It just keeps chopping around. Then I finally do see a potential second entry long because it's new high, first entry long, second entry long. The only thing that attracted me to this was a really good signal bar. Looks like there's two legs down. And it is bouncing off the EMA. The thing that gave me pause is I'm not really sure if prices will continue to go up, or since they touched this side, they're more likely to come back down and touch this side because it looked like it went from the bottom to the top to the bottom, almost, it hits bottom two more times and tries to go back to the top. And now it looks like it might come back down here, or equally, it could bounce and continue going up. So when I had conflicting ideas, I don't know which one's the better one. I just had to sit on my hands. Turns out that buying it would have worked. And if you actually sold it right here, thinking the bounce and it's going to come back down here, this would have worked here. Unfortunately, I didn't really see a setup or justification to take it short here. Prices then continue. It gets congested, kind of flashes up a little bit more. And then this is getting toward the last hour. It gets really noisy in here. So I'm just kind of staying out of it. Plus, I was already sitting and not feeling in tune all day that I wasn't that eager to try to find a trade at this point. Prices then get really stemmy and ugly, rallies up, and then it just kind of goes into the last 10 minutes and goes into the close. So price action today, as I said, I mean, there's these big moves. Unfortunately, I couldn't find very many convincing areas to enter to try to ride these up. And on top of that, as I kind of mentioned, it was just kind of noisy in terms of the second entries that were setting up uh, weren't strong second entries for the mere fact that they're only maybe one or two ticks above their original signal bars. So it just felt like things were I just very whipsaw. So hopefully that was helpful.